All right, all right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Good to see everybody here today. Are we good on in the audio? I think everybody's hearing me properly. Okay, nice, nice, nice. Oh, welcome to the Chai Experience. This is a fun thing that we do. Oh yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Uh, so this is going to be interesting. This is going to be part the chai demo. It's going to be part chai history, part story. It's just like a whole experience. Hopefully, if you have any questions after that, we can talk about it. But the goal for this kind of moment is for us to just have a full sensory experience when it comes to chai and how that relates to us living a meaningful life. Even before I get started here, let's see. We have a couple of things here going on. So we have our tea here. We got ginger, we got cinnamon, okay, over here. I don't know if you can see, but this is cardamom right there. This is cloves. By the way, if you want to know how to make it, there's like a link in my bio. You can just go and download the free chai recipes if you want to, because I want you to just experience this. So this is peppercorns right there. I got my mortar and pestle. And this is actually called a Masala Dabba. Basically what this is you have, so all of these things will fit into this, with this box. If you go to an Indian household, a South Asian household, you'll have this spice tin where you have all these things. And they'll take one, sometimes they'll have 16 of these, sometimes they'll have 8 of these all and they have different spice boxes for different purposes. Some people, the people who make chai every day, they have just a chai box just for chai. That's what I have. So this is what I have. So basically, I have deconstructed the box, and I have these tins here in front of you. Before we get started, I just want to give you a little bit of what tea I'm using and what this means for us. This is black tea, loose leaf black tea. Okay, Ceylon BOPF. BOPF is just a grading for tea. It means black orange pekoe fannings. The grading system that comes to black tea is handed down by the British during colonization, and so we still use it up until today because it's a really good grading system. You're like, you know what, we'll take the good things. You can take all the bad stuff. So that's one of the grading things that we're like, all right, cool, we like it, it's worked for us. So BOPF, Ceylon BOPF is what we're using. When it comes to tea, the terroir of tea is very important. When it comes to terroir, does anybody know what that word means? Terroir. Terroir. It's a French word, so I'm probably butchering it, right? When it comes to terroir, it's essentially a French word that means land or landscape. When it comes to the tea, you know how people go so in depth with wine and coffee? In the same way, you can go in depth with tea as well. The terroir of tea involves the ecological conditions, the biochemical processes, the wind conditions, all that stuff that actually gives rise to tea. So when you actually taste black tea, you don't just taste tea, you taste rain. You taste sunlight. You taste land. You taste water. You taste altitude. You taste clouds. Depending on where the tea is raised or grown or harvested in different parts of the altitude, you can get different flavors of tea. For example, Darjeeling chai. Darjeeling chai is found in the Darjeeling region of West Bengal, in India, and it's considered the champagne of chai, the champagne of chai. But in order to harvest that, it's just really you have to harvest the tea at specific times of the year. You have these things called flushes. At different flushes, that means like different times of the year you will harvest different teas, and based on what times of the year you harvest it, the teas have a different flavor. For example, really fun fact before we get into this, there is this, during one specific time period, I think somewhere during, let's see, I'm here, let me look at my notes here, a two-week window during March and April, there's a bug, there's a grasshopper that comes, and then there's another bug, a moth, they come and chew on the tea leaves, and that has a chemical reaction in the tea, and that actually changes the flavor of the tea. And the thing is, those things only come during that particular period of the entire year. So just 2-week period, you have to harvest it right then and there, and it's extremely expensive. So the terroir of tea is important. When it comes to tea, we have to think about the land where it comes from. I like to think of character as the terroir of our soul. Characters, which is basically who we are, as the terroir of the landscape of like who we are, and it's made by the confrontations that we have on a day-to-day basis and the commitments that we make on a day-by-day basis. So let's just start here. So we're gonna do a masala chai, right? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make 2 cups. We're gonna make 2 cups here. If you wanna, the easiest way to do this, is to actually measure. You can start with a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 cup of water to 1 cup of milk for 2 cups of chai. So if you want to measure cups, you take your cup and then you just put your water. The water quality is important. You want a water that's like somewhat flavor neutral, because some waters can be like super hard and you don't want that. And so I'm just using, what is this? Purified water from Kirkland. Kirkland is awesome. Right, it's that good stuff. So we're gonna go medium high. Or maybe let's just go high here. So I'm using my inductions, cooktop. Water, boom, in. And this is going to be, let's see, I'm going to do a medium high right there. So while the water is in, you have to, there's a way to put, you can, if you want to, you can just take all the spices and just put it right away. But I don't want to do that, because you're kind of having to layer the spices. And in order to do that, so let's just make a spice mix. So you know what, even before we do this, I'm going to just pause, and then we're going to actually make our spice mix first. So we're going to eyeball this. Let's see. We have some cinnamon for 2 cups. So I use about, let's see here, about two teaspoons, 3 cinnamon sticks. We got some cardamom pods, 2 cardamom pods. There's like some cloves here. So let's do some cloves, 2 cloves, and then maybe some peppercorns, because we're exciting. And right there, there's some ginger here as well. So I'm gonna crush the dry spices first. Talking about spices, you can peek. Good stuff right there, good spices. And it's done. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, done. Done. Oops. Yeah, simple. Exactly. So ginger, I put it with the peel and everything. So actually, did you know that the peel of the ginger actually has health properties? So when you peel, so you can actually use the ginger, the peel as well, right here. All right, good stuff. A light crush. You don't have to go too crazy on this. Boom, right there. Okay. Nice. So, like that. Yeah. Good stuff. I'm just taking, so let's just see. Yeah, this is just this much for two cups. If you want to do more, you can. Right? But I'm just measuring from the heart, because sometimes the best things in life are things that you cannot measure, right? Yeah. As you measure from the stomach, you measure from the brain. It's like what the ancestors. You channel the ancestors, right? We don't want to do that because we're Adventists. Come on, you don't want to do that. But at the same time, I like the sentiment. It's like, you think about what your grandmother used to do. You know what I'm talking about, right? Some cultures, you go by feel, right? You go by feel. Exactly. You don't measure. Exactly. So I'm not measuring either. All right. So we have the spices. We got the ginger. Did you know, fun fact about the spices? The British, when they introduced tea to India, actually, no, there was us. We had tea all along. India, Sri Lanka, we had tea all along. The British came, and they were like, oh, this is our land, and then they cultivated the tea. And so their version of the tea was just water, tea, like very astringent. Astringent basically means really tart. Have you just had black tea and water? It's just almost very acidic, right? And so they thought that was the best way to have tea, because it's the proper way. But the Indians were like, you know what? This is not it, Chief. This is not it. So what they did, they actually used spices that they used for the rest of their curries into their chai. So the stuff that you see here, cinnamon, cardamom, peppercorn, cloves, all that stuff was spices that were native to India. And so they decided, we're going to make this thing our own. And so they actually put spices to the chai, and masala chai was a thing. So masala chai was an act of protest against colonization. Yeah. So yeah, when you crush spices and when you have the spices in front of you, it's just kind of a reminder that this reminds you of the people who were crushed before you. It's heritage, it's legacy. It's so when you taste chai, you taste history. It's all of that. You bring all of that to the present, and so that's something that's very special. So the instantification of chai is an affront to what chai is, right? Cool, we have this, and now we are going to start. We're going to do this. It's heating up. While the water is heating up, let me tell you a little bit about this. This is tea leaves, essentially. But if you look at what tea leaves look like, they actually look like actual green like leaves. But how can a green tea leaf go from a leaf to this? It has to go through a 4-step drying process. You take the tea first, you take the leaves, and then you go and you dry them in like these 12 to 20, for 12 to 20 hours on these large vats to reduce the moisture of the leaves. And then you take that, and then you go to, then you roll them. You're going to roll them in the factories, and that breaks the tea down at a cellular level. Then you take that, and then you put them through heat. Actually, no, you actually ferment them. Ferment them in a chamber that is between 80 and 85 Fahrenheit. And then you take that, and then you blast heat through that. Blast heat. And then at the end, what you have is this thing that's only, this is going fast. Oof. All right. You see bubbles here, good. When you see bubbles, put the ginger and the spices. I'm going to go 300 Fahrenheit, maybe 200. Good stuff. So it's this process of drying that actually gets the tea from the leaf to the powder. And the drying period between what the tea is, or what the tea used to be, and what the tea could be, it's kind of what sociologists it's an illustration of what sociologists, psychologists call a liminal space. It's a space between where you are and where you want to be. Right? It's that wilderness space where you're just like, I don't know what's going on. And a lot of people think that the drying process actually makes chai, but it doesn't do that. It actually reveals what chai already is. And that's the wilderness experiences of our lives. When you go through tough times, it doesn't make you. It just reveals what's already been inside of you all along, right? So this, you can't just use the leaf and put it here. You have to process that thing, right? And it doesn't look great, but when it touches the water, when it touches the spices, it just comes alive. So like, what are the liminal spaces of your life? Maybe some of you are going through like in-between space right now. You're just like, I don't know, I have this idea, digital missions, you just want to do something, but then you're in that space, but then I'm not really sure what to do, and you're going through all these moments. The wilderness experience can be a hard place, but it can also be a clarifying space, right? Putting 1 teaspoon of tea, right? Good stuff. And the tea is, yeah. So the boiling process, there's like you have to, when you look at the tea, there's a couple of things that you look for when you boil the tea. Well, the heating is important because heat management is very, very important to chai. You don't want to, you actually want to calibrate the heat throughout the process, and you have to see visually what this looks like. When you see small bubbles, then you put in the water. Sorry, when you see small bubbles in the water, then you put in the spices, and when you have big bubbles, then you put in the tea. And then when the tea is boiling, like right now, like a lot, it's going super fast actually, you will put in. Actually, let's do this. Let's put it right there, and we'll steep it. And I'm going to pause it for a little bit, and we're going to steep it in that latent heat for just a little bit, and let it simmer, and then we'll go back to this. And you have to manage the heat in that way. And the thing is, if you actually don't. Sometimes what's going to happen is if you don't manage the heat, and if you don't pay attention to this, you're going to lose the chai. Today we live in what sociologists again call attention economy, not just a creator economy, but an attention economy, where the most valuable thing in our lives is attention. People who can control your attention control the world. And so, for me, this chai experience is when I make it, it's a palace in time. Abraham Heschel, a rabbi, he talks about the Sabbath being a palace in time. And so for me, a chai is a palace in time. It's a feast of attention where I'm just focused on the thing that it's in front of you. And so the things that you focus on, the things that you pay attention to, they make you who you are. They develop you. What's in front of your eyes, what you're paying attention to becomes the person you eventually become. You become what you behold. Right? You become what you behold. Something to keep in mind. And this reminds me, because you can't be on your phone when you're actually making chai if you really want to make a good cup. You have to pay attention, right? And that's important. So let's start that. And it's steeped a little bit. You kind of want to see some color. I don't know if you can see it properly, but it's just, you'll see it. You'll see it later. If you can't see it right now, I would encourage you to go check out the videos. There's a whole bunch. There's a whole catalog of just me making tea, man. Like it's all I do. All right, let's see. All right. Let's see here. Okay. It's steeping. Bubbles. Good. Now, when there's a lot of activity here, we're going to measure milk. How much milk? 1 to 1 cup, right? So we said you want to use a full-fat milk. If you go dairy, you have to go full-fat dairy, whole milk. If you're going vegan, vegetarian, non-dairy, extra creamy, Chobani oat is great. Oatly, oat, full-fat is great. Other stuff, almond, silk, you can use all those things, but like I am personally not a fan of some of those things because you want to have the milk be both viscous. It's a fun word to say, viscous, right? It's thick, but it also has to be flavor neutral. It has to be flavor neutral. So that's why when you have the what do you say, like a soy milk or an almond milk, for example, it just becomes, you taste the soy, you taste the almond, which I'm not a fan of. Not in the chai. Maybe you might like it. If you like it, hey, go for it. Bob's your uncle. Is that the phrase? So I heard somebody use that phrase, Bob's your uncle. I was like, what does that mean? But anyhow. So we have this. Now this is going to be a waiting game. Typically, when the induction stovetop cooks it really fast, but sometimes when you're using the regular stovetop, sometimes you get impatient because once you put in the milk, when you put in the water, you just want to like, oh yeah, it looks good right now, and now I can have it. But the thing is, especially when you're making chai for a lot of people, like today, we're making chai for all of you, and I can't wait for you guys to taste it. There's vegan version and there's a dairy version. There's a waiting period. You have to wait for the thing for it to actually show some activity. There's a first rise where the chai, for a while, it seems like nothing is happening, especially if you have a lot of liquid. But you have to stir it a lot in the beginning, and then you have to leave it undisturbed, because if you keep stirring, what's going to happen is you are going to extend the time that it's going to take for it to roll over. You need the chai to come to a place where it just kind of comes to the top of the pot and then just rolls over, just almost, and then take it out. But in order to do that, you have to stop stirring, you have to wait. And a lot of people, it's hard for them to wait because I just want it right now. You gotta wait right now. You got to be patient, right? You got to be patient. The thing is, the process is important, and it's going to take some time. King David was anointed at 17, but he wouldn't become king till like 20 years later, right? Jesus was anointed at birth, but he didn't start his ministry, at least the way we know it, till like 30, right? The process is important. And what seems like wasted energy is but stored energy for a breakthrough. What seems like wasted energy, what seems like energy that's just like, I don't see anything, bro, is just storing. It's just storing. It's just steeping. So that one day, at one moment, with the right heat and the right condition, it's just going to come out. Right? So you're not wasting. You're just steeping. You're just steeping. Right? So keep that in mind. The process is important, and you cannot short circuit that process. You can't, because if the process is the thing that's going to bring you to that place, and when you're at that place of promise, when you're at that place of like, this is what I was meant to do, if you're not gone through the process, you're going to be lost. Probably Justin talked about being viral yesterday, right? You can do that, and everybody wants to go viral. Let's go viral. And the virality, a lot of people think that, hey, that's the thing that we want. But if you haven't gone through the process of creating all these videos, if you haven't gone through the process of actually getting like 0 views, if you haven't gone through the process of like nobody seeing your stuff, if you haven't gone through the process of actually just when nobody's watching and you're creating stuff and like nobody cares and you're just you and the grind, if you've not gone through that process, you're not going to be ready when the virality happens. Or it's going to be really hard for you to have the energy to steward that momentum at the end. And that's not just in content creation, but just in life in general. You have to go through the process. Don't bypass the process. What seems like wasted energy is but stored energy for a breakthrough one day, right? Okay, so it's almost done actually. So this was kind of almost boiling over. And let's see here. And I think we are good. Yeah, I paused it a little bit so that we can have a conversation there. Right there. So this is my little pitcher that I use, and then after some time, we are going to take this chai, I'm going to strain it into this pitcher. And see, like I'm waiting right now. What's actually happening is that there's a lot of activity, and it's boiling, and it's going to come up. Yeah, it's coming up right now. And then I will stop. Done. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then we're going to strain this. All right. So good. Doesn't get old. Someone asked Nadal, the tennis player, yo, how can someone become like the greatest tennis player ever? Well, this is a discussion. Some people say it's Federer, some people say it's Djokovic. Not Nadal, sorry, Djokovic. But he was just like, basically the question was like, how do you become the greatest, bro? Like, how do you become? And Djokovic, he said something really interesting. He said, I don't know, man. I'm just obsessed with just hitting the ball. And you're expecting some like deep, profound things, like, oh, go practice every day, do this thing. But it's like, no, I'm like obsessed about hitting that ball. I just love the feeling of the ball hitting my racket, the sound that it makes, that twang. I'm obsessed with that. This is me, this is my thing. I'm obsessed with this. But when it comes to your process, like when it comes to content creation also, for example, break the whole process down. Well, like what's the thing that you really just enjoy doing, you know? Break it down. And part of enjoying and actually cultivating this life as a creator and a content creator moving forward is to actually find out those pieces that you really, really enjoy and then just do more of that stuff. And then eventually you can outsource the things that you don't want to do, right? Like I don't like editing at all. Zero. But I had to do it. I had to do it. We all have to do it. You just have to, that grind is real. We just have to do it. But what I love is scripting. Love it. Love writing. I love the whole storytelling aspect of it. So in the content creation process, there's so many different things that you enjoy. There's so many parts of it. Find out the things that you enjoy, double down on those things, and then eventually kind of have an eye to like, okay, when you have more funding or whatever, you can outsource that. Okay, so I think we are good here. We're gonna add some. I'm gonna do some taste testing here. Then we're gonna see how bad this is. I'm just kidding. You see how unsanitary that sounded? Right? Right? You know what that is? That's basically how you taste tea. So basically what it is, you take a sip, right? You just go like, right? So you can't be like, oh, like, this is some nice cup of tea. You can't do that. If you really want to experience the full experience, you got to, what that does, it's going to coat your mouth with the tea, all of it, and then you can actually, so you're coating the olfactory bulb. It's a fun thing to say. It's like all of this. So you have to taste it here. So that's gonna, and then then you can get like all the flavor profiles of it. All the flavor profiles of it. So taste, my cousin, for example, in Sri Lanka, he has a tea estate. He's an assistant manager at a tea estate, and basically, this guy tastes every day 100 cups of tea, every day. And he can tell you by tasting which part of the mountain what tea came from. It's crazy. He'll be like, oh, that came from that came from here, that came from here. And then he will taste it, and then he will like grade it, and then he will put it to auction. That aspect is still very deeply human because it requires a memory palette. What memories are you building right now? What are the things that you're into? What are the experiences that you're like, what are the experiences that you want to make with your family? Like, what are the experiences that you want to make with God? Because at the end of the day, you are a product of your memory. You are a product of what you remember. Right? And so these guys, in order to cultivate the memory palette, they had to taste so many different types of tea. And the more experiences that you have, the more things that you're exposed to in your day-to-day life. You know, if you're just stuck in one place, that's all the inputs that you have. But the more broader that you have, the more you're exposed to so many different ideas and things and outputs and experiences, the more things, the more memories you have to actually assess your current experience with your past experience, which allows you to move forward, right? So I think, let's see, one more, if we can put some sugar, I think it's good. It's very nice. It's a little bit more astringent than I want it to be, but that's okay. It's my tea. That's fine. If you fail, it's okay. It's all right. There's always one more cup. Okay? Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, now we're going to aerate this. This is a fun one, okay? Get your phones ready. But this is the part where I was like, hey, stop. Okay, so I'm just gonna. So this is basically aeration. What this basically does is, again, introduces air molecules to the chai, and what this basically does, it expands the chai a little bit more, adds a little bit more body to it. And if you go to Sri Lanka, India, Malaysia, those parts of the world, you have these chai wallas who you'll see them doing this. And you know it's a good chai when at the end of your process, you won't be able to see the chai, but you're going to see like a layer of foam. So that's when you know you have like a good foam experience, like an aeration experience. This actually reminds me of, aeration reminds me of displacement. You know, when you move things from one container to the other, you're displacing things all the time. The displacements, it reminds me of the time when I came to the States. I was 18 years old when I came to America with 2 suitcases and a backpack. That's all I had. My parents were still in Oman, and it was my first time away from family, and I was feeling displaced. I came, I didn't have money to go to school. I asked God, give me money to go to school. I'll be a pastor if you provide my money to go to school, to Andrews. And I thought Andrews was the only Adventist school in North America because that's basically what we saw. I thought that the only Adventist school there. God gave me the money to go to school. We went to school. And from there, I went to a mission trip. I spent a year as a student missionary in Lebanon. Then went to California as a pastor. Now back here in Berrien Springs, Michigan. Displacement. You go from one place to another place to another place. And it just feels like, man, I don't know where's home anymore. The displacements of your life, I've realized, does not need to dull your flavors. It actually deepens them. It actually deepens them. The aeration, the process of moving things, like it actually deepens the flavor. It actually deepens the chai, gives you body. So when you go from place to place to place, you collect experiences. You collect all these, all the different inputs you're collecting relationships to the point where now at the end, you are a product of so many different things, right? And so let's hear, we're going to do one more time, and then I think we are ready to actually serve this. And I have a special person in mind today to serve this cup. Exactly. Pastor Ridge, I want you to come forward here, if you can. I'm going to. Okay. Okay, this is what color you want? Actually, this is less. I'll take this one. Ooh, I like it. All right. Pastor Ridge. Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. It's too high. Happy birthday, dear Pastor Ridge. Happy birthday to you. All right, all right. Oh, yeah, let's drink it together. All right. Cheers. Cheers, 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 cheers.
I'm scared to do the aeration thing because
No,
I'm going to choke.
you're going to be choked, yeah. It's a little bit more on the astringents. It's a little bit more. What does that mean? Oh, Starbucks. Um, I, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. I was like, whoa, is that like a different drink? But
Give you like
the spices in the back. Yeah, if you
the
creamers in the front. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. We have a connoisseur of a coffee here, so he gets it. He gets it. He gets it.
even in the middle of your tongue too, there's like a
My brother's hooked. Yeah. In South India, there's this, according to Hinduism, when you serve your guests become God. They have this belief that when you actually serve people, is because, and then the moment after that service, after that pouring, they become God. They become a manifestation of God. And that's why hospitality is so embedded in Chai culture. It's so embedded in this whole experience. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about Revelation 3:20. If it was written, if John was Indian, if John was South Asian, he'd probably say, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock, and if anyone hears my voice, let him invite me in, and have chai with him, and he will have chai with me." Right? And so we may not be gods here, but we serve a God who became us. Bridge that gap. And when the Bible says that Jesus became human, the incarnation basically means that when we go to heaven, the Son of Man is going to look like us. We don't know how he looked like before the incarnation. We don't know what Jesus looked like. He probably had different manifestations, but in the end, when you go to heaven, we can tell who the Son of Man is because he's going to look like the human race. It's almost like a wetsuit that he put on, never to take it off from eternity. And so that's who we have as God. That's who we have as a Savior. And I pray that that you continue to reflect and image His glory wherever you are, with the things that you pour into the world, whether it's chai, or whether it's content, whether it's love, whatever it is. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, and I think, I don't know what's happening here, but we do have chai. There's a dairy version, and then there's a non-dairy version. Please, if you can have the dairy version, I would encourage you to have the dairy version. We want to preference it to people who cannot have dairy at all. So try different things, and yeah, welcome.